Welcome everyone to the First Friday e-call with K-State Research and Extension. The purpose of the First Friday e-call is to increase the local community's knowledge of the experts, the education, and the economic resources that are available to help their community succeed. As always, the call is being recorded and you will get a link to the website when it's posted and a copy of Brendan's presentation. And we would very much like to know whether and how this call makes a difference. So at the end of the call, you will get the opportunity to take a very short survey. And the survey will ask you, did you learn something today that you can use immediately? How many people will you tell about what you learned? How many will you forward the information to? And what did you learn today that was most helpful to you? And I'll share all of that with our speaker. And with that, I'm going to introduce today's speaker, Brenden Wirth. And Brenden and I have agreed that we'd love for you to, well, first of all, I'd love for you to tell where you're coming from and who you represent in the chat. And then beyond that, if you have questions, put them in the chat as they occur to you. And at the end of Brendan's presentation, we will talk about that. We will ask him the questions. So Brenden, with that, I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Nancy. I've been looking forward to this opportunity for several months. When I found out I got listed as one of the folks to present on here, I've had the chance to hop on. I mean, you got such a great group of leaders across Kansas, and I really hope you get a sense that this message I'm going to share with you today and what we're doing resonates, and look forward as a resource you can use in your communities. So, Brenden Wirth with Kansas Farm Bureau. I'm geographically sitting in right out on the outskirts of Mankato, Kansas, in Jewell County. Excited to come to you from my office and at my home. And I've worked for about 23 years at the Kansas Farm Bureau, spent 22 of that roughly as field services, working in north central Kansas, from the Hayes to Ellsworth, north to Phillipsburg and Jewell County area, working with volunteer farmer and ranchers. And over that time with the local county farm bureaus, had the opportunity to nudge a few folks to run for some local offices, mostly school boards, a few county commission seats, some city councils. And through that work, I've also personally served on my local school board for 12 years. And what I'm going to share with you today on Engage Kansas speaks to where my passion lies, is helping community leaders across Kansas, great leaders in our communities. What's the next step they can take to putting their name on a ballot and putting themselves up for public office at the local level. So I'm really excited to share what we're doing within Kansas Farm Bureau, and specifically the Engage Kansas Coalition. That's what I'll be speaking to today, and sharing about what that is and what Kansas Farm Bureau's role is, as well as all the other organizations involved. I also, as I see the waiting room come to life and everybody gets brought in, I see several familiar faces that I have worked with in the past, and I hope you're all on here to, be fun participants and not hecklers, because some of you got me a little worried. But it's good to see you on here, though. So I'm going to share a little bit about what Engage Kansas is, and I'd be happy to, if you put questions in the chat as I move along, we'll make sure to address those, or if you'd like to do that at the end. Sorry, make sure there we go. Okay, so let's talk about what Engage Kansas is. So we developed Engage Kansas in February, actually a little over a year ago, in 2023, as when we rolled it out, started developing it in 21. It's a website, www.engagekansas.org, and I'm going to talk about all the pieces that go into it. But essentially, it's the coalition of organizations it's designed to encourage and support people to consider public service at the local level. It's a broad range of coalitions and partners. We continue to add these partners across Kansas. They're very influential partners in so many different systems. Kansas Farm Bureau obviously being one of those, the Kansas Association of School Board, the League of Municipalities, who directs and gives guidance to all the municipalities across Kansas, the Kansas Association of Counties. Carl, if you're not familiar with their program, they just a tremendous leadership program. We recently brought on the Kansas Medical Society, Kansas Association of Realtors, The Kansas Chamber, we'll talk a little about their Leadership Kansas and Emerging Leaders program. The Chamber of Commerce executives, some of you I probably on this call are members of that organization. The Kansas Leadership Center has been a great partner in what they do. Another recent partner we just brought on here in the last couple of weeks is United We. They're a United Women's Empowerment Group, and they focus on their appointments project. And the Kansas Bankers Association. We continue to grow this. We continue to look for partners. And really the role of a partner, and some of you may belong or be working with some of these other partner systems that would want to join, and we listed those folks, is really just around, would you promote what we're doing? And if you had a resource that is a nonpartisan, unbiased resource that's open to the public, that's the stuff we want to share that could help somebody that's considering to run for public office at the local level, either take that next step or, give them the skills and confidence to do that. So why is Kansas Farm Bureau, spearheading this and working through this coalition? I just need to share a little of that context because, obviously we represent farmers and ranchers across Kansas in a lot of different capacities, but our mission of to strengthen agriculture and the lives of Kansas through advocacy, education, and service. And that service component is of vital importance. The reality is a thriving Main Street equals to a thriving agriculture economy all across Kansas. Main Street's just as important, if not more important, than a thriving agriculture economy. We need each other symbiotically for all the, if you want to be a young farmer and rancher and you want to come back to the farm, you need a thriving economic development system in your community to be able to do that. And that does nothing but make your farm more likely to be able to be successful and hopefully passed on to the next generation. So there's over 6,000 locally elected positions across Kansas. So roughly 286 school districts, 625 municipalities, and 105 Kansas counties. We're not even counting into that local rural water districts, electric cooperatives, folks that serve on extension boards. Those are all publicly elected positions we ask a lot of folks to step up to the plate and we ask them to put their name on a ballot at some point across Kansas. So Engage Kansas is really to bring all those systems together, and what can we do to help support and encourage more folks to be able to step up to those opportunities. So there's lots of reasons to not run for local public office. And you can come up with a bunch if you think about it, but the reality is it's necessary. And so we pulled a bunch of different folks and across Kansas trying to get, where can we, as we look, we know this need exists. We came out of COVID, and I will tell you my experience sitting on a school board, it wasn't as much fun as I thought it was going to be during that time. There were decisions we were having to make as a school board that I didn't ever envision in my time. That's what we'd have to do, whether we're going to play volleyball indoors and can grandparents come. Like those are decisions, I wanted to, have good teachers, and I want to have a good culture, and those decisions are really hard. But so and post-COVID, we pulled these resources together to make sure that we are encouraging folks that want to serve the community and know where to go to be able to be better equipped to make decisions when those types of crises come up, or just, have the confidence to again put their name on a ballot. So we're focusing on two areas. Again, lots of reasons not to run. Time, but we've all got the same amount of time. It's just how we prioritize it. But really, a lot of folks really don't really understand the role of a lot of what local government offers and what they do. Until you sit on a school board, it's really hard to understand. I mean, it's oftentimes we hire and fire the superintendent, or we like or don't like the coach or the teacher. But the reality is there's so much more to serving on a school board and the impact that it has on a community. And so that's why we went to the Kansas Association of School Boards and Kansas Association of Counties, the League of Municipalities, and some of the resources they provide. And what is the real role of those local government entities, and what can they do to just be more aware of what they offer and what their possibilities are to be successful? And the second part is campaigning. The reality is at some point you have to put your name on a ballot, and you may have to campaign in order to govern. Like we teach that in our campaign school, and I'll share that at the end. You can't govern unless you win. And so, unfortunately, that's a piece that deters a lot of folks, but there's some skills out there we teach to be able to kind of manage that. It doesn't all have to be what you see as we get through some pretty tenacious election years, but there's ways to campaign in your for local offices that are very practical and just a skill set that's acquired. And I'll share a little bit at the end. So as I mentioned, Engage Kansas is really a website. It's here to encourage and support people to consider public service. There's this mystery around what the role, like I said, of what school boards and county commissions and local city councils do. And so how do we demystify that process and make sure anybody that's interested in having a role in shaping their communities has the opportunity to at least learn more about it and get in a place where they feel comfortable doing that. So I encourage you, once we're done here, take a look at the website. I'm going to just show you some links, screenshots of what it looks like. But really, the three primary areas we're focusing on right now, and I look for us to expand, but this is where we're at right now, is really school boards. So the website's designed to be two clicks to the information you want. So with the school board, county commission, and city council, you click on any one of those links within Engage Kansas, and it's going to take you straight to I'm not going to drop you on Kansas Association of School Boards website where you got to find what the role of a school board member is. It's going to take you straight to the area of their website that talks specifically about the role of school boards, has a great list of video catalogs to, what should you expect in terms of time and how often the meetings are and what's the role and responsibility detail. Great information there. Same thing with the county commission. That information goes straight to the Kansas Association of Counties overview of the roles and responsibilities of being a county commissioner. And the same thing with the League of Municipalities on the role of city councils, commissions, and mayors. So 2 clicks to those resources is our goal, and that's what we continue to do. We're just a hosting platform. So let's talk a little bit about, you go to the Kansas County Commissioner website and or click on that link, and like I said, it takes you straight to that information. And county commissioners have just an amazing role. Basically, they're extensions of state statute and the role that state government gives within their county, and it's a broad authority, but it's a really important role. And we'll talk about the real impact that they have here in a second. But 2 clicks right to the information you need if you're interested in being a county commissioner. So why a county commissioner? Why is that? Why we're focused here? 26,000 bridges in Kansas. 19,000 of those bridges are owned by local governments across Kansas. And in 2020, the Office of Rural Prosperity annual report rated over 20% of those bridges in Kansas poor. That's infrastructure is just an unbelievably important piece, as many of you know, in determining, what our local economies look like and survive and, prosper with. Those of us in the agriculture sector recognize you take one bridge out of one area of the county, make it impassable. You might add several miles to getting your crops and livestock out of the field. So the impact that county governments, local government, specifically county commissioners, have in deciding, where you provide those resources of infrastructure is just extremely impactful. Lots of challenges there. But I'm confident that we put the right people in, and we've seen it. We put the right people that have the right motives into office. They can help us overcome those challenges. As we talk about school systems, we roughly educate around 492,000 K through 12 students in Kansas every year. This slide, I find it just unbelievably eye-opening when I saw it. But essentially, if you take that 492,000 kids and divide it into 3 equal groups of 164,000 students, roughly 1/3 of our students in Kansas are in 7 school districts. The other third are in 36 school districts. Okay, so that's 43 school districts represent 2/3 of the kids. 243 school districts represent the other 1/3. And my guess is, after looking at the list of participants to here, most of us, including folks like myself, live in that 243 space. That's 1,700 different opportunities to run for school board in that, for those 130 kids. There is no better place to engage in rural Kansas than on your school board and have an impact on your community. And we need that. Roughly, some data that came out from Ballotpedia after last year's election, almost half of the school board races last year were uncontested. I mean, only the 1,100 seats up, roughly about 500 of those had nobody running against the other person, which is fine if that's the right person, and they're doing a great job. But the reality is, steel sharpens steel, and at some point, that challenge should be welcome. And And, you don't always know why those folks ran, but what you know is you need more. Well, you need more folks to be able to willing to step into those roles. But that graph right there just really sticks in my head of the importance of what that looks like, of why we need more people to serve on our local school boards. So as you talk about the impact of school boards as it relates to school board members specifically, so you're like, okay, so I get elected, what impact can I really have? So Emporia State does a Kansas teacher retention survey every year, and they just recently came out with their 2023 survey. But the context continues to be the same, and it's so that they look at like the top things that motivate and engage teachers, and that to retain them in the teaching industry. And consistently within the top 6 or 7 things are what you'd expect. It's salary, it's benefits, it's culture, support from your building leadership, things like that nature. But consistently in that 6 to 7, 8th priority that often gets overlooked is teachers want vision and leadership of the Board of Education, and that drives retention. And I don't think that would be a mystery to any of us as we think about it. We all want to work for or with an employer that's got the culture where we feel like we're a part of it, where we feel like we're going down the same path. And school boards drive what that vision and leadership. That's their primary role. We pick the leaders, and we set the culture and the vision. And it's an extremely important responsibility. And if we want good teachers, you need good school board members to be able to carry that responsibility out. So we're talking about cities. Kansas has 625 Kansas cities or municipalities. 503 of those represent 11% of the population. Again, I live in one of those, in Mankato, Kansas. So having city council and folks run for mayor positions that can look at a community and address the greater need for infrastructure, broadband, sewer, water, recreation, housing, daycare, all the things that city councils get their fingers in, and they're extremely important to what we do. And so as we encourage folks to fill those positions, and as it relates to our farmers and ranchers across Kansas, so consistently this graph really has to hit home for those of us, and why we should be so engaged in picking our municipality leaders is over 50% of total farm household income comes off the farm. So if our farmer and ranchers, over 50% of total farm household income comes off the farm consistently. We need a successful Main Street in agriculture. We need a successful Main Street that can provide off-farm income and maybe benefits. Even if we're just getting started, the cash flow components, it sometimes takes, if you're a young farmers and rancher, even a mid-sized farm, just to be able to have the opportunity sometimes to follow your dream and have your operation grow. A successful Main Street just brings all those things to the table, and agriculture needs, and our small communities have to work together to do that. So some of the other components that Engage Kansas brings to the as resources. So this is a coalition of organizations. I'll bring all different types of resources. So we have Kansas Farm Bureau. We offer a campaign school. I'm going to share a little bit of details with that here in a little bit. But Kansas Leadership Center, I don't know if I'm sure some of you on this call have been apprised of their work, with their technical and adaptive training components, and that and the county commissioner example for a lot of folks that I present this to and show, okay, so I'm a county commissioner, and I want to, I need, how does the KLC format and what their curriculum fit into what I need to look at? Well, I say, well, the decision to, I want to fix a road, the decision to buy a grader, that's a technical problem. I got to raise some taxes, got to find how to pay for it, do that. Creating a culture where that grader is used effectively and the employees running it feel like they're supported and doing well and using it effectively, that's an adaptive problem. And KLC does a great job of trying to help you with, fix those, recognize those challenges and think about how you can adaptively, fix some of those issues. So that's the analogy I consistently use, that I think that's where KLC brings great opportunity to the table for our local leaders to engage with that. Kansas Chamber brings, I'm a graduate of the Leadership Kansas program. I think I saw Andrea Kraus on the call here. She's a fellow classmate of mine from 2019. But they bring the Leadership Kansas and Kansas Emerging Leaders program. It's a great program that it basically takes you across Kansas and shares with you all the great successes across Northwest, North, Southeast, Central, all across Kansas, all the great success Kansas has had, and be able to share those opportunities and experiences back in your community, and be able to connect you with great leaders. I've learned on my service with my school board, having the connections and being able to reach out to folks in different parts of the state and seeing how they've solved problems. Chances are they've seen it, and maybe I've solved a problem that they hadn't thought about how to do it, and I love hearing how they've done it, so I can help fix that. Creating those networks is an extremely important part of local service, and having folks you can count on and rely and get ideas from is extremely helpful, because these are very complex issues that we're trying to fix, but chances are somebody's fixed it. You just got to find out who it is and ask them how they did it many times. The Carl Leadership Program, who's a partner, is in the same capacity. A great network of rural Kansas leaders. Highly encourage folks to engage in that program. They offer more agriculture and rural-based focused, but still a great opportunity. In fact, they're taking applications right now for their next 2-year class. They do, and they also do a international trip with that as well. I'm also excited. I want to expand a little bit on United We, a new partner of ours, the United Women's Empowerment Group. Their focus is specifically, and they've got some great information that's now linked on our Engage Kansas website, straight to their appointments project. And what their focus is how do we get better gender equality, basically more women involved in appointed positions across Kansas. So if you sit on a local county commission or a city council, there are so many opportunities to make appointments, and in school board as well. We appoint all the site council members that make recommendations to our schools at a local level. There's zoning and planning, economic development, hospital boards, library boards, a whole range of appointed opportunities that are great places to be able to pick leaders out of your community that may not be ready to put them names on a ballot, but are ready to serve and want to learn and be more engaged. The appointments project focused specifically on those areas and designed to provide resources to communities and leaders in communities to encourage that. What's the process, basically define what the process is for your local city council, county commission, of how they're getting the names of those appointees, how they're vetting them, what's the decision process into putting those into place. They have tremendous impact, and it's a great place to get people started in the local government system. And that's their focus. And I encourage you to check that resource out. There's a lot of opportunity as we look at those. You may not have to put yourself on a ballot, but it's a great place. A lot of times those folks that get into those networks, the local zoning planning or hospital board, essentially they're the ones that would feel confident once they learn the system to want to run for another local office. So we're excited about that. I also want to speak a little bit to the KLC. I know some of you may be involved with local leadership groups, but the Kansas, if you have like a local community leadership organization, those are tremendous opportunities. And folks, so those that are participating in local leadership opportunities, like leadership McPherson County, or we have several. Little leadership Mitchell County is one I'm most familiar with because of my backyard. My wife's been through it. Great programs. Those folks that participate in those local leadership programs, according to KLC, they have over almost 25% higher likelihood of filing for office at some point. Those are great networks to share. I'm sure many of you probably know, there's some of you serve in that capacity, but and KLC oftentimes is the conduit and the curriculum that a lot of those local leadership programs use. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our campaign school. I'm going to shift gears just about our specific resource that Kansas Farm Bureau offers. I shared all the other partners and all the great works they're doing. I'm going to share ours. So we started our campaign school, American Farm Bureau. It's a curriculum that's an unbiased, non-political way to teach the very nuts and bolts of campaigning. Unfortunately, campaigning is something, if you put your name on a ballot, you're putting yourself out there for people to check a yes or pick somebody else. And that can be very daunting to a lot of people to have to be selected, to have to, to want to serve their community. But again, it's just a part of our process. So we, through American Farm Bureau, they developed a curriculum that's, again, nonpartisan, nuts and bolts of campaigning with some very simplified training. We have 2 different types of schools we're offering in 2024. So We have a complete campaign school, which is really a 2-day. It's very in-depth curriculum. It's got a media training component, and it's all, the most important is a simulation. So we actually walk you through a simulation of what it's like to be in a campaign and make decisions about what your slogan is, what your issues you picked and you talked on. How do you know your electorate that you're, and how do you get to know the voters that are actually voting for you? And so we walk you through all of that. And last year we developed a program called our mini sessions. We are offering, so for the complete campaign school, we bring some folks in from our American Farm Bureau office out of Virginia to teach it. They teach us all over the country. But our mini sessions, actually, I put these on. They're 4-hour miniature sessions. So we took the American Farm Bureau's curriculum and shrunk it down to a 4-hour session. Because the reality is, if I'm running for Hill City Council, I don't know that 2 days of campaign training is probably necessary. Or if I, I'm picking on you, Randall, out there, but there are still things that we recognize can build confidence. And if you just have the very simple nuts and bolts, so we teach just the basics of simple campaign theory and practice. And again, we focus a little bit on, again, what should a campaign sign look like? How do you manage a social media page? Those are all there's some very simple tricks and things that we walk folks through in that 4 hours just to give them a basic understanding of just how campaigns work and what resources are available for them to just get themselves started. We got a lot of great examples from Kansas, from folks across Kansas that have used this, our campaign school curriculum, and we think it's a great opportunity. So I'm looking forward to these. We actually have our next ones in Overland Park, Hayes, McPherson, Colby, Iola, all coming up through the rest of this year. We'll be doing these again next year. This year's a partisan election year. So, for county commissioners, and obviously state legislators and things like that. But it's still not too early to start prepping for our nonpartisan election years, which would be in 2025, which is school board and city councils, mayoral races. It's a great opportunity, and we look forward to that. So I'm going to share just a little bit. So you go to kfb.org/campaign school. Share a little bit more about what we teach in campaign school. So we teach the basic fundamentals of the theory of campaigning. Okay. So I'm going to share a few what our just basic principles are. So the first one is political parties alone cannot get you elected. I live in Jewell County, as I mentioned more than once. Just to think you're going to walk in and check the Republican, I'm a Republican, therefore, or Democrat, and therefore that's going to allow me to get across the finish line is probably the first mistake a lot of folks make in walking in and think, well, that's going to get me elected. The reality is, voters still want to learn who you are. They want a way to connect to you and understand that there's somebody they can relate to. And so we teach folks, don't focus on the parties, focus on your voters. That's really what differentiates our campaign training from all others. It's not about politics, it's about voters in your community. And so we basically take a couple, the other additional theories, there's elections are more often lost than they are won. So as we approach how to handle a social media account, how to, develop your little 25 words of why I'm running, a little stump speech, just the simple components of if somebody asks you why you want to be the mayor, if you're doing a community event or just something on Facebook, or sharing that, just one-on-one conversations, how do you craft that message to ensure it's concise yet effective? And candidates have really, this says 2 responsibilities, but I'm going to throw in a third because you would think it'd be obvious, but it's not. But one of them is be in the right place at the right time. And in the world with social media, that, obviously you've got to go to the local county fair, you've got to go to the local parade and festival and the things that just, make sense in your community to be visible and opportunities to campaign. We talk about how to get your message out. Again, there's so many different ways, whether it's social media, whether it's campaign signs, you might have radio, you might have newspaper. There's so many different ways. And we walk you through all the different options of how to get your message out and the most effective ways to do that in a campaign. But the third that I want to share with you is asking for people to vote for you. I've worked with so many candidates across Kansas, and we're so Kansas nice, just who we are. We want to tell you, we want to run for this position, but when we get done with that, we don't ask for people's vote. And that's something we teach folks. You got to ask for people's vote, and people want to be asked. People want to be asked. We all find our opportunity to vote across this country very sacred. And those of us that vote want, to know that it's valued. And when people ask us, there's a much higher propensity of them voting for you when you ask them to vote for you. We teach how to do that. The other piece is money. So there in the theory of campaigning, we teach what we call a 1 in 7 rule. Money is just a part of campaigning. To buy signs, to buy radio ads, to buy ads in newspapers. How do you raise that money? How do you do it? What do you spend it on? We go through a whole budgeting and fundraising and what that looks like component. Now the mini sessions, much more condensed, localized version of that, but the broader 2-day campaign schools, we go much more in depth on working with larger organizations. But essentially, we teach this 1 in 7 rule. One contributor, I don't care if it's $5, 10, or 100, or 1,000. They are going to convince 7 other voters to vote for you. One of the things we teach in campaign schools called voter goal. Know exactly how many votes you're going to need to win this election. So it's 50% plus 1. That's what wins you this election if you're in a plurality race. So in my school district, if you break down the 3,000 residents that live in Jewell County, and I'm in one of the districts that's divided by only one school district, we teach you how to figure, I need 135 votes is all to get elected to my school board consistently. That's not very many votes. And if you do that in primaries, school board races, municipality elections, that number gets really small in a lot of communities. So we teach you that's why this 1 in 7 rule becomes so important. And also we had to start thinking about money in the context of investing and not costing. People want to invest in campaigns and they're likely to say yes. And if they don't, it's not because not because they don't support you yet, that you just got to convince them that if your idea is right. And so being told no is not the worst thing. And that's always what our fear is. But I think as I work with candidates across Kansas that are, dipping their toes into this and want to run and be successful, they're finding just making the small ask and how do you make those asks can be extremely impactful and just spread your message and creates a higher propensity for you to win. Doesn't necessarily equate to dollars equal winning, but what it does equate is the number of donors can help you ensure you're getting across the threshold to winning an election. And this is the 1486 rule, something we teach that is the hardest in the room to get their arms wrapped around, because this is the reality. And I am confident everybody on this call is in the 14%er, but the reality is 14%ers are informed. The other 86% are not about the candidates when they walk in that voting booth. Oftentimes we teach that 86%er is, they're making the decision up based on how many campaign signs they saw, how many ads they got in the mail for one candidate. It's really nothing on anything they're standing, that candidate really is about, or their platform. It's the very simple things. They may not make their decision on who they're voting for until a day or two before or right before as they walk in the voting booth. So how do you connect to that 86%? Because if you're somebody like me, I like to think I'm in the 14 and I want to explain to you how I'm going to fix the issue and we're going to educate you on it and all these things. And the reality is that's not what an 86er wants to hear. They just want to know that they can trust you, they like you, and that, you're just going to go in and do a good job for them representing them. They want to be able to connect. So we have several things we teach around the context of how to message yourself to the 86ers, because all of us on the 14ers have a way we want to manage it, but that's not who gets you elected. It's the 86%ers out there. So hope that gives you a good context of what our campaign school does. Again, it's I always proud of the fact that you have pulled out folks into our campaign school with all different political affiliations. And when you walk out, that's not what we're focused on. We are focused on just giving you, just like any other skill-based, there's skills you can have in campaigning, and they're very basic. And, then you can have the skills to go out and develop the campaign yourself and what gets you elected to those local positions. And we're just really excited to have that opportunity to share that with folks across Kansas. You can check that out at kfb.org/campaign school, or go to engagekansas.org and click on the campaign school link. It takes you straight there. So just a little recap. Engage Kansas, just really excited to bring this coalition of partners and bring them together across Kansas, continue to grow it. I will also offer that I do this presentation to organizations and groups all across Kansas. There's a couple of us within Farm Bureau that offer this. So I've be more than willing, especially those local leadership groups. Like if you have a local, community leadership group, I'm more than willing to come out and share what this program is and encourage them to check out these resources and direct them to something that they're interested in. So love that opportunity. The same thing goes with any like local Rotary chamber. I've done lots of Farm Bureau meetings, obviously, extension I'm more than happy to come share this message and try to, my real goal and working with this coalition of partners, and there's some great folks, is just kind of give them that confidence and that edge, that little nudge to say, you can do this. And there's a lot of support out there to help you if you make that decision to put yourself on the ballot and get into office. So really would love to share that opportunity. If I know many of you kind of run local organizations and leadership groups, would love the opportunity to come share that. You can reach me through my email, wirthb@kfb.org. Also the Engage Kansas email. There's a jot form. You can fill that on the website, engagekansas.org, and that goes straight to me if you have any requests to present Engage Kansas as well. Please check us out. We're on Facebook, now Twitter, now X, and LinkedIn as well. So we appreciate if you'd go like and share our Engage Kansas posts. We share all these resources, and as we bring in new partners and trying to make that these social media platforms where, just like anything else, just trying to create awareness, and really just appreciate the opportunity to share what we're doing today on Engage Kansas. I'm representing, as I shared, a whole plethora of partners that just have a tremendous amount of credibility in the space of public service. And I'm really fortunate to be able to do that, and just really look forward to continue to grow the organization. Lots of great things going on in the future. But this coalition's a great group of folks, all with the same mind. I don't know if any of you involved in Kansas politics, but some of these organizations don't all agree politically, but we all agree we need more leaders, and we need more people willing to step up and serve their communities. And those leaders have significant impacts on the success of we need those leaders that are critically thinking to be able to step in and carry out and think critically about all the tough decisions our small rural communities need, and it's all communities in Kansas. Just we as a whole, we have a depopulation issue. We've got to figure out how to continue to grow Kansas, whether you're small or large. Really appreciate everybody's time today. I'd be happy to take questions. Nancy's going to keep me on point to make sure I don't miss any if there are some in the chat and things. So
There.
Thank you.
So far, Brenden, that was awesome. And I myself got some really concrete information that is helpful to me. I have one question, and our co-learners have given several answers. Nathan Carr, who is the librarian at the Mound Ridge Public Library, asked, do you have a fun and engaging way to learn the Robert's Rules of Order? And I'll let you answer that, but we had several answers in the chat if you'd like to know what they are.
So the short answer, that's we don't have a specific resource at this point that identifies how to run Robert's Rules of Order according to those using Robert's Rules. I will tell you, every one of those partner resources, KASB, KLC, and the league, all have resources within their systems. And maybe that's something we should look at putting out there, because if you're ever elected to one of these, learning the Kansas Open Meetings Records Act and how you use that, and the components of how to run your meeting in order to build coalitions and decisions, and that's a great idea. But not specifically, but happy to look into see if we can link to that. That's an important thing for people to know.
And that's certainly an issue beyond even what we were thinking of, just how to do an effective meeting. But if those of you that are looking at the chat, I hope you all know how to save it. If you press on the chat button, the chat comes up, and at the very bottom there are 3 ellipses. And if you press on the ellipse, the choice at the top is to save the chat. So you can see Francis Graves has shared an extension resource from South Dakota State, and Melinda has suggested that there's some great YouTube videos made by student groups and government classes that are fun and really help with reviewing that. Every time I hear anything about Robert's Rules, I want to share it with my HOA, because
and I always tell them, go to your local FFA advisor. They're the best.
Say that again, Brenden.
Go to your local FFA advisor. They're some of the best. And
Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, FFA and extension, you guys do a great job. I have the fortune to work with a lot of leaders across Kansas, and I can always pick out my extension agent and extension kids that are involved in 4-H and FFA, because they know how to teach the rest of us how to do it. I was a Boy Scout. We didn't focus so much on that. But
yeah, no, not so much, did you? That's right. Well, so I see Patsy Matty turning on her screen. I think she has an announcement to make, and it's a good one.
Yeah. K-State Research and Extension is partnering with Network Kansas and for the Kansas Youth Entrepreneurship Challenge. And so we are looking for judges for this event. This is an event where kids, junior high to high school age, they create a business and they put together an executive summary. They do like mock board interviews, like a presentation, and then they have a trade show where they put up their display and what they're trying to market and to sell. It's an amazing opportunity for these young kids. I know they've been doing it in Norton for quite a few years. I think almost since they started this venture. And it's just amazing what these kids can do. So we are looking for judges for this event, either online judges to judge their executive summaries, or to be there in person in Manhattan on April the 16th. That's the day of the contest. And so we would love to have anybody, that's on today that might be interested in that, to come and help us judge, or even if you aren't interested in judging, to come and observe what these kids are doing. You would be amazed. It's just unbelievable, the thought process that goes into it, because they have to do their financials, they have to do their research on their products. I know we had one youth in Norton that actually, she was doing salsa, grew her tomatoes, had the recipe, and actually sent that recipe to K-State, to Karen Blakesley, to review. And she got everything. She had to make some tweaks in it to make sure it was for food safety, etc. So these kids are learning a lot of life skills. So they do all their research and put everything together. So it's just, it would be an awesome opportunity for anybody that would want to learn a little bit more about it. We are actually trying to get Extension involved a little bit more, and trying to get more of these events across the state of Kansas. So, or if there's already an event in their community, try to get Extension to help with the coordination, facilitation, or whatever. So does anybody have any questions on that event? Or
Patsy,
go ahead, Nancy.
I put the Qualtrics survey that you put in out to us into the chat. If you'd like to be if you wonder about that opportunity, please do that. Deanna wants to know, are there any qualifications to being a judge?
Not necessarily qualifications. In the Qualtrics, it asks kind of your background, if you've ever judged before. Basically, if you've ever done anything like club day judging or judging for county fairs, it's kind of like that. Basically, it's taking their product and evaluating it. And you just ask questions, and they will give you some sample questions to ask. And Nancy's judged before, and I've judged, I think, every aspect of the contest. You just take it. It's kind of like an interview. If you've done interviews with people before, that's their presentation. You ask some questions, and basically how do they do? And then you rank them. And it's ranked in Venture Dash is the system that they use. It's all online. When we first started, it was like a paper. You filled it out, a paper form. When Norton first started, and I first started helping them with that, but now it's all computerized. You just enter your scores. And I can't remember if it's a 1 to 5. I think it's a 1 to 5 scale. Is that right, Nancy? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember. I
Yeah.
suspect so, yeah.
Yeah. So not really any qualifications, just can you evaluate, is this presentation better than the other one?
And constructive, yeah.
Yep.
I have asked to do only the online because I can't look at those sweet little faces and say you're better than somebody else.
It's hard. And we always, like when I do the executive summaries, I always try to give them as much feedback as possible.
Yes.
And kind of like Nancy said, constructive. So make a sandwich, good comment. This is where you can improve. Another good comment. and they take that information and they roll with it. We always do like practice mock interviews in Norton. I've been a part of that. And then it's amazing the improvement those kids make. You can tell the 4-H kids, FFA kids from the other because they have that public speaking skills. But to see these kids, a lot of them will do it every year that they're in high school. And just to see them mature and grow is just amazing. And they have actually had businesses that have come out of these entrepreneurship challenges that they participate in their high school years. So it's really good.
Thanks,
Any
Patsy.
other questions?
Yeah, April 16th at K-State for the Kansas Entrepreneurship Challenge,
Yep.
and all kinds of local events.
Brenden, you'd be an awesome judge. Get signed up.
All right. Thank you,
Okay.
Patsy.
Thank you.
And again, if you have any questions for Brenden, either unmute or ask him in the chat, and I'm monitoring that. But we do have a number of announcements today. Remote Work Wednesdays are the first Wednesday of every month. So that's next Wednesday at noon. And I don't have the topic on the tip of my tongue, but you can go to the website and check it out. Check out the old topics and register for the one next week. Trail Talk Tuesdays, we have 2 more episodes of that. The next one is March 12th, Tuesday, March 12th. They're the second Tuesday of the month from noon to 1 p.m. And this time we're going to talk about trail sustainability. The registration link is soon going to be in the chat. The registration for Trail Talk and First Friday doesn't change. So if you put it in your calendar, it'll be there for next time. Then grant workshops, we continue to do grant workshops. People who have been in the grant workshops have reported writing $42 million of successful grants in the first year after they take the grant workshop. And you'll see that link there. The next class is March 25th and 27th. They are online. And if you have an event you would like to promote, send it to me at, there's my email address, nkdaniels@ksu.edu, and we will promote it in our mailings for these other events, put them where they belong. And if you'd like to promote the events that I just talked about in your own social media, then ask me to be on that email list, and we will give you little PNGs to promote in your own social media outlets. We're all connected, and the more connected that we can get to each other, the more we can reach the audiences that you want to reach. Are there one more last time for questions? And otherwise, I'm going to announce that our next call is Grow Hayes, and they are going to tell us about the innovative work that they're doing to create accessible housing and a brand new micro factory, which is an opportunity for people in manufacturing to test out their concept in a way that's accessible to them. So with that, I always end the call with a thought to think about. And this one is from Rosalind Carter, former First Lady of the United States. A leader takes people where they want to go. A great leader takes people where they don't necessarily want to go, but ought to be. So thanks for joining us, and we'll let you know when the call is ready and online. Thanks, Brenden.
Thank you very much.